2023 is coming to a close, and what a year it's been. This video is going to look back at the games we've started and finished in the hunt for achievements, and a few honourable mentions that we may have gotten when we just started streaming, but making affiliate in December 2022 is really where we kicked off, looking at grinding out all those achievements, with some surprising games being utterly soul destroyed, and some being more of a pleasant surprise for my first look into the genre. Starting off, not all completions have a video on YouTube, as that's a decision I made later on to put the accomplishments onto YouTube, and haven't really shown much love to the channel recently either. Moving into 2024, and that will all change with 3 videos lined up to be released within the first few weeks. At least, hopefully, that's what I'm aiming for. And then continuing the grind to pull out more 100% completion. With the new year, I've decided that I'm going to pick the first game to complete rather than leave it to chance for the wheel. It is a game that has been shouted out a few times in the chat over on Twitch, so if you want to see it live, head on over to The Smiley and catch me there taking on another challenging game to start the year with. But on to the review, starting off with the honourable mentions. First 2 games that I got were some of the games I streamed for fun and just picked up most of the achievements naturally. The first being Rocket League, which is a game I still do play casually, either with a few friends or just solo queuing into duos. If you do stop playing this game for a few months and then pick it back up, my word, the skill gap jumps up, or that might just be me. But the completion is pretty straightforward, with nothing too challenging from the gameplay. There is one achievement that I don't think you'll be able to obtain unless the developers change it, and that's the trade, as the developers are taking this aspect out of the game, which sucks. And for me, I had to spend real money to unlock the trade feature, but other than that, it's a pretty chill completion, and apart from having to grind out the solo play, it's more to use specific items which are randomly unlocked from playing the game. After that, we jumped onto the bandwagon and hit up Fall Guys. Most of the achievements here are a little bit of a grind, but nothing too ridiculous. It's such a fun game to play solo or even with a party with friends. I played this with my nephew off stream as well, and the only achievement that can be really difficult is winning 5 full rounds in a row, but playing the featured Sweet Thief mode made it so much easier, and I even did it solo queuing. We've done both of these games stupidly on the Epic Games launcher rather than on Steam, but the first Steam completion we got was for Brotato, and this is one of the games that surprised me with how fun it actually is. It's a roguelike where you take on waves of enemies that are constantly evolving and get tougher with each round. You need to find resources to buy weapons and perks to out-evolve the enemies, and after 20 rounds, you win. Different characters with different abilities, and there's also a difficulty level too. Thankfully, only one of the achievements is linked to the hardest difficulty, which is tough, but the slingshot is OP, or at least it was when I finished this game. Next, we ramp up the difficulty with all 4 games in the Crash Bandicoot main series, 1 through 3 being the easiest, with only a few levels that held us back, that being mainly Stormy Ascent in the first one. It took around 6 hours of stream, and with my own stupidity thinking that I need to platinum on all the levels in the first game, you don't, and I got them anyway. But nothing prepares you for the jump up in difficulty for Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. But I enjoyed every single hour of the 97.5 hours it had taken me to complete it. My only issue being that the inverted levels just added a few hours of gameplay without actually adding much more into it. The levels are hard enough to complete as it is, let alone with the time trials, spending multiple hours on a few of the levels at a time, and then finally to get the insane relics where you need to get each box without dying and finishing the levels, which are about 5 times as long as the first 3 games. I was up for the challenge and I truly enjoyed it all. But now we're beating one of the remastered games, the chat suggested that we can't move on without beating the Spyro remasters. Now, I don't know if it was just me or if it's more of a nostalgia base, but I never really actually liked the Spyro games as a kid growing up. It was just something that I couldn't get on with it. But maybe playing the remaster did my opinion change? Slightly. They were a very chilled out game without much to get the blood pumping, and a massive change of pace coming off the back of Crash 4. But yeah, nice and chilled, and none of the achievements caused any issues. I didn't make a video on this as it was around the time I decided to show YouTube some love, and the first video was for Crash 4, and then I didn't realise, but on Twitch the VODs do expire, and by the time I made Crash 4 video, my VODs had expired. Coming off the back of Spyro, I wanted a bigger challenge, a challenge that at one point I thought I was never actually going to achieve, that being Hollow Knight. For those who know, no. There's 2 achievements that are supposed to cause issues, and well, only one of them did, but more on that shortly. I'd also played this game on the Xbox PC Game Pass, which is annoying me so much as the rest of the games are on Steam. I've contemplated buying and playing this on Steam just to add it to the list. But first I want to play this game blindly, and I got lost, which is part of the charm of this brilliant game, but I got lost far too many times, even when I started to follow a guide. And unbeknown to me, I was following a speedrun guide rather than just a normal guide, until someone in chat pointed out how underleveled I was. But I still love this game. The music, the atmosphere, everything about it is just fantastic. On the first playthrough at least. The bosses felt like actual bosses, and mastering them was so rewarding, but then comes the actual challenge. To beat this game without dying, after the hundreds of thousands of deaths that I got my first playthrough, this I thought would actually suck. But I did this on my first go. A few lucky pause and quits helped, but the hard part and the main part of the grind is for the Pantheon. Here is where you fight all of the bosses back to back in a boss rush mode. Learning the early bosses makes it a little bit easier, but it's not until the run at the end of Markov Path, Zor if you're stupid like me, Nightmare Grim, and then Radiance. It does become a challenge, and rightfully so. When I beat this game, I was buzzing. The hardest game I'd ever beaten. Today at least. Another game that cropped up, this time on a randomizer, as this is where we introduce this, was something that I did want to play but never got round to playing it off stream, that being the Cult of Lamb. I thought I'd enjoy this game so much, but towards the end it started to become a little bit repetitive, and the amount of followers that just kept dying didn't help. The Crusades are fun and kind of reminded me of something like the Binding of Isaac, but with much less randomness. But the lore around the game and the camp to keep your flock happy was something new to me, and I did enjoy that aspect. I would recommend this game, but to play it a little bit more casually than just sweating for all the achievements. But it was good, just good for me. Nothing really challenged me for the achievements. The hitless bosses and the Bones minigame confused me for a little while, but read the instructions and you'll be okay. On to another series that I saw and thought, that looks pretty cool. I'd love to play that one day, but never actually got around to buying it. That being Yooka-Laylee, and beating both games in this series for a completion. The first game is basically a spiritual successor to Banjo and Kazooie, a game I adored as a kid. And thinking about it, it was the first ever game I'd fully completed. But anyway, this game carries on in that way, with pages instead of jiggies and collectibles along the way. A quick game to complete with under 20 hours for me, and with most of that running around the levels looking for 1 or 2 items to finish off that full level. The second game in the series is a bigger change up. The levels are now 2D, and you could in theory beat the last level before unlocking any of the game, but that would take more skill than I have. Again, it's all about the collectibles, fighting through the levels, and the overworld rescuing the bees, which help you take on the final boss, and that is the impossible lair. It's just really that. A really good challenge, and the more progress you make throughout the game will help you here, making it a slightly easier. Even though I had around 40 bees, I still struggled. From a kids game to a massive grind now, especially on Steam, with 6 DLCs. 6. Borderlands 3, which was selected by a viewer on Twitch with a channel point redemption, which we still have active. I've never played a Borderlands game in the past, and a few of the regulars in the stream said that Borderlands 2 was better, but I enjoyed the base game. It might be that I've not had the experience of the second, but you know what? I loved it. The weapon variety, the enemies, the worlds, everything just seemed massive and fun to explore. The downside came when having to hit all 6 DLCs back to back. I didn't realise on Steam for that lovely 100% ribbon, you need to get all of them complete, including all DLCs. I only had the intentions of beating the main game until on one stream I realised that I needed to get every single DLC, and that went from a 30-hour completion to around a 70-hour completion. It's not that the DLCs are bad, ignoring that one glitch quest in one of them, it's just that there were so many, the challenge just became twice as long out of nowhere. But a brilliant game, and who knows, I might go for the rest of the series one day. Another change of pace again from the previous game, we enter killer frequency. Another genre of games I've not really ever played in the horror world, and I have to say that loosely because this really wasn't scary compared to some of them that are out there. But brilliant game, brilliant soundtrack, and just a quick and fun completion. For me, it took around 12 hours. You need to do a few run-throughs of the game, and we control Forrest Nash, a radio DJ who's thrown into the deep end on the first night shift, whilst the Whistling Man is on the loose again. He's once killed a few of the townsfolk before meeting his end, but is he back? Is it someone else? We'll just have to find out. It's up to us to save the townspeople. Well, at least one of the playthroughs anyway. For one of the achievements, we've basically got to team up with the Whistling Man and have everyone die. Everyone die! Don't know if that makes me an accessory, but anyway, play this game, it's brilliant. Another chill game next, Destroy All Humans, one of the quickest games I completed this year, and another one of the games I wanted to play as a kid but never actually got round to. It's a remaster of the original, and some of the jokes haven't held up too well, but it's all a bit of tongue-in-cheek anyway. We can take control of Crypto 137, and as the title says, destroy all humans. Apart from a few miscellaneous achievements, the main ones come from completing the game, and then the challenges, which are fairly hard to get, especially for the last achievement, which is to ace all of them. The races are the easiest for me, with the last one being the only difficult one, but then there's a rampage challenge, an abduction challenge, and an Armageddon challenge. They're all something a little bit different to the main story, and this is a fast, fun, and easy game to add to the completion. Then things take a turn for the worst. The hardest achievement I've ever got was for Ori, and it's just for one achievement. This gorgeous, unassuming game made me almost give up, that being to beat the game without dying once. Now, the game is brilliant. Honestly, until I started streaming, I'd played one of these types of Metroidvania style games. It was one of the first free-to-play games with gold, being Guacamelee, and it was alright. But this and Hollow Knight gave me an appreciation for the genre I never had. But this game, the soundtrack and the gameplay is so fun. 56 out of 57 of the achievements were a joy to get, and with around 25 to 30 hours to get those 56, loved it. Then the last one, the hardest one I've ever ever gotten. If you're on Xbox, you can cheese this achievement, so it's a piece of cake. Steam, on the other hand, you cannot. The speed in which you die makes it so much harder to pause and quit like we did on Hollow Knight in the tricky situations, but around 32 hours of streams to get one achievement. 32. Watch the video, that'll be out soon. I'm going to post a full run of this achievement separately too. The second game in this series, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, changes the game with combat and a bit more focus on platforming, but again, brilliant, gorgeous games, both of them. In this one, you do get the same achievement, beat the game without dying, but thankfully there's a cheese method. And after the first game, after that nightmare, we're going to take all the cheese we can possibly take. Another brilliant addition to the series, and I probably enjoyed this one a little bit more, but I recommend both games. This one took around 25 hours for a completion. The bosses are a lot harder and a fairly few challenging achievements, but it's totally worth it. Before I get onto the last game of 2023 that I completed, there's a few more that I picked up and played, one of which I didn't realise was on Steam, and that being Animation Throwdown, The Quest for Cards. This is a game that I fully played out of control on mobile, and downloading it for free on Steam, all the achievements popped at once. It's just a card battling game. If you want to pick it up and play it, please do. It's brilliant. Then the last one that we streamed 2 or 3 times was Only Up, as did everyone else during 2023. But after a few streams, we got to the top. Not much more else to go on about this game. The hype died as soon as all the rages did too. But the last game that landed on the wheel for us was GTA 4, a throwback from 2008. I was 16 when I last played this game, and I bought it back in the day with the majority of the achievements already hunted for, but a new account, meaning I had to grind them all out again. I'd also never played any of the DLCs on this game, so something brand new to go back to again. If you like these games, you play these games, there's nothing really too much of a challenge. The hardest part comes with the grind, and I'm not going to say too much more else on this one. Watch the video, that'll be out shortly, and see me mess up really bad. The hardest of the achievements coming in the DLC, in the Ballad of Zesty Tony, and having to beat the missions with specific requirements for 100%. But this game is around 15 years old, which meant sometimes we ran into some issues with loading, and we had to knock back on the graphics to make it playable. But in summary, there's a few games that I've beaten this year that are quite highly ranked in terms of difficulty, that being like Hollow Knight and Crash 4, but nobody ever talks about Ori, and it's so underappreciated in terms of enjoyment and also difficulty. The most surprising game for me that I enjoyed and didn't think I would do so much was Killer Frequency. The game's really fun. The longest completion still being the first game of the year that I completed, Crash Bandicoot 4. The quickest was for Destroy All Humans, and the hardest, without doubt, was Ori and the Blind Forest. But on to 2024, and let the hunt begin with something new, and another one that ranks quite highly with some hunters in difficulty. If you enjoyed this video or any of my hunt videos, please hit that like button, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and leave a comment below on what you think has been my biggest achievement in 2023, along with what's been your biggest achievement for 2023. But for now, I'm the Smiley, signing off, and I'll catch you in the next one.